Welcome to Eat This. Eat this. This week, we have lunch with Katie Edwards, artist, graphic designer, and creative genius. We've primarily worked together in a marketing capacity, creating the brand for Chicago Cane Cooperative Distillery, working on social media, web, digital, and print advertising. Also, asking her to do design work for Here Productions. If you want a powerhouse copywriting, design marketing, branding, creativing duo for your business, hire us. We love working together, shameless plug, but also hire Katie. Look at her website for some really awesome art. She's in different art markets around the city, so keep an eye out. For lunch, we had grilled cheese and tomato soup, a summer salad with strawberry balsamic vinaigrette, and a strawberry matcha. Let's dive right in.
Hey, I'm Katie Edwards. I'm an artist and a graphic designer. Right now, I am on Instagram at Print Boogie. I have a small risograph printing business, and I also sew. Right now, I'm freelancing as a graphic designer and just doing a lot of different jobs. Yeah, happy to be here. Excited to eat some good food and talk about creative stuff. A lot of the work I do is by myself, so it's always nice to meet up with people who are doing cool things and talk about our process and what we're inspired by. So I think that's it. I'm gonna bring us to the kitchen.
Thank you for coming over.
Yes!
Welcome
Thanks
to
for
Eat
having
This.
me. Eat it. Cool.
The goal of this, bringing people in I've worked with in different capacities, specifically created with in different capacities. And I am, as a person, just like really curious about creativity and art and work.
Yep.
The ways that we compartmentalize work in our lives. Because it's never really worked for me.
No.
So I want to talk about that with you. And I'm starting with the same question for everyone. What to you is and is not creativity? What is and is not work? How do you define these concepts in your practice, in your life?
Wow. Okay. That's a thinker. And I think my relationship with work and creativity has changed since getting laid off last year, too. I was so burned out from design entirely. And it was nice to do freelance stuff, but my day job was like corporate design, doing reports and stuff. And it got to the point where I might have quit anyway, and then they laid off half the design team that I was on. I think creativity to me is something that everyone has. It just depends on the form it maybe manifests. This is like rambly, but I've been thinking about it a lot lately because my relationship with my own like art practice and creative practice has changed a lot because now I have more time to explore it.
Right.
Which is, it ended up being a good thing because I would have never, it's hard to make that decision for yourself when you're giving up something stable, especially these days. Like, it's hard out here. A stable job is a good thing to have. Insurance is a good thing to have. And it was kind of the kick in the ass that I needed. But what is creativity? What is work? I'm going to be looking to see what other people say to that question too.
We'll also probably we'll come back to that.
Okay.
I'm sure. Like that's
Yes,
the main
that's kind of
channel of
yep.
our conversation, but everything else is kind of going to inform that.
Okay.
So maybe one way that we can help to inform that, because I would consider the work that we did together very creative,
Yes.
and it was indeed work.
It was both. Yep.
So
True.
your background and how we overlap.
My background. My parents are sometimes cool. They put me in art classes when I was little, and I was always involved in music too. So I kind of had a lot of outlets for creativity. I did a lot of traditional art when I was little, like painting, pastels, and did art all throughout school, elementary, middle school, high school. In high school, I ended up taking a graphic design class, which my high school had, which was awesome. And by the time I was looking at colleges, I wanted to do graphic design because I was like, oh, it's art, but I could still make money from it. It was like a more traditional career path at the time. And my parents were like kind of worried about it. And then I started touring, schools. And they were like, okay, this seems like a legit program and an okay thing to go into. So I have a degree in design and graduated, freelanced with one of my professors, which felt like a dream job at the time. It lasted for 3 months.
Of course.
And I was in a similar situation where I'm like, okay, I'm living in Chicago. I thought I was going to be working a little longer, and I was here for 3 months. Now I have to get a job. And then I was living downtown, so I needed to get a job. And I reached out, cold emailed a print shop because I've always been interested in print. And they were looking for a customer service representative. So I'm like, you know what, I'll take it. So I was working at Cushing & Company, who I still love. And they're in River North, so I started out doing customer service there, like learning how to use the equipment, because they did small format and large format printing, so like, stationery, but also like construction banners and like big posters. They would also do art posters, stuff for the MCA. It was just like a fun variety of stuff. The people were great. It really felt like a family, which, could go either way with a job.
Right.
But I loved my time there. The pay was not great, but it was fun. And eventually I started operating the presses and doing like more design work, which was fun. And I love physical media, and I still do. And that's always been kind of at the root of my practice, is like print, different methods of printing. Left there because it wasn't creative enough. I thought, I wanted to be doing more design instead of printing.
Right.
So, got a job at my last company, doing reports and stuff, which felt good. Felt good to be employed in my field with my degree, but it was very, it was not very creative. And that, starting the job, I just wanted it. I just wanted that kind of a job because it was stable. I was getting paid more. And as the years went on, I didn't think I was going to be there as long as I was because the pandemic happened. Then I got engaged, and we were like, we have to pay for this wedding somehow. And it was just like a stable thing to do. And then I was laid off. So that's kind of like the career background. I've been doing art almost the whole time in different forms. I did screen printing in college. My senior year thesis was on the letterpress at UIC. So that was like a really cool tactile, setting the type by hand and printing, and that kind of changed how I look at design and creativity, because at the time there was a lot of, there still is a lot of discourse around like digital versus physical media in the design world. Is paper dead? Are printed materials dead?
Right.
Is print over? And for me, it's never been over. And I think there's still a lot of creativity in the production of material. And I think that comes from a print background too, like seeing how the files are set up and like learning how to work the printer. And that's exciting to me because I've always been interested in, like, design is fun, but kind of the uncreative part of your brain that's more logical, I think, is interesting to me too in the production. Like
Right.
learning how to use a printer, learning how the printer works, how to fix it. Yeah,
Cool.
it's all very interesting to me.
Yeah, it comes up in your. I have this quote: known for my unique style and process-oriented thinking and thoughtful point of view. And I feel like process is exactly what you're talking about in there. Like,
Totally.
there is a context within the creativity, and a lot of times the context is our, what is the word? Like our technology, the
Yes.
parameters of our technology, and how do we enable a creative process where our brains want everything to be possible?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we enable that to exist within the technical parameters? And I feel that with you and how we've worked, that like the way that you're establishing a process from start to finish, or like finished because we're never done,
Right.
but
Yeah.
how you're establishing a process is like very thoughtful.
Thank you.
And I totally feel that from you. That makes a lot of sense. I did not know that you worked at a print shop.
I did. Yeah.
That's really cool.
It was fun.
That
It
makes
was
a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think at the time I was desperate for a job, so I was just like emailing around
Totally.
and I was kind of like, well, they're hiring and they need someone, so I'm there. But I think having that so early on in my work life
Right.
was impactful. And I'm still friends with the people
That's
who I worked with, which
Yeah,
is
how old were you?
rare. I was 20. It was like right out of college,
Yeah,
so
you
like
were like
22.
22, yeah.
Which is wild. Before the pandemic.
So cool.
Yeah, it was fun, and it was in River North, so I like took my little Chicago bus ride down.
Glorious.
And then it felt there's a lot of like, this is kind of a side note, feeling a part of Chicago.
Right.
Feeling like that's something I missed when everyone went remote because of the pandemic, but like being downtown during rush hour and like, being on the scene in Chicago and like being with all the suits, even though
Yeah.
I'm not, but just,
Yeah.
kind of a cool feeling.
It also sounds like there is a duality in your experience where creativity and work are sometimes at odds. Where talking about in a corporate world, in
Yeah.
the job you had for 5.5 years, that creativity was not totally existent within that job. And then likewise with the print shop, it did not have the creative, it wasn't the creative outlet you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And in the background during all of these things, you're working on your creativity, but then you're also having your creativity informed by, especially at the print shop, what you're learning tactically in that environment, and it's influencing how you're seeing your own art and your own expression, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Does that feel...
Yeah, no, that's a cool, yeah, I mean, it's always helpful to hear someone, like, reflect stuff back at you, but, yeah, and in college, everything's creative and everything is work, so
Right.
you're not expecting it to change once you graduate and are in, like, the real world doing big girl jobs, and one of the things that kept me using that creative brain was like our work together, and I think that's a testament to our team and how we respected each other's creativity in a way that I was not getting in other places.
Like at Chicago Cane Cooperative?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Specifically.
Okay, I have another quote.
Yep.
Approaching design is an opportunity to blend historical and other unexpected references with modern sensibilities. I have so many thoughts about that,
Ooh.
but I'm curious why you wrote that on your website and like what that means to you.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. I love talking about this stuff. My parents are old. They're almost 70, and I'm 30. So they had me late. So I've always grown up with their references. And so my grandparents were old, and I felt like I was surrounded by a lot of history and a lot of Respect for history too, and appreciating what came before, and I think I also gravitate towards older stuff because I'm not sick of it yet. A lot of the new stuff, it's all kind of similar. A lot of like design trends, like those couple years where every single company went sans serif and they all looked the same, and they ditched their like hand lettered scripty, like there were trends in design as in everything, but I feel like the stuff that I'm drawn to is maybe not timeless, but is just more interesting, a little off the beaten path,
right,
has historical references, and I'm also a big like vintage flea market person, so I think the field of inspiration that I can pull from is a lot more unique to me because it's stuff that's not online, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like as far as I love a reference book, I'm inspired by all kinds of old design, all eras, and also just design pre-computer.
Right.
I think that's really interesting to me, how people figured stuff out, and the concept of graphic design is pretty new. Like even that phrase is from, I don't know, maybe the 70s, because it used to be like commercial art or marketing, and now it's kind of turned into this money-making thing, which is, whatever.
Right.
We all need to make money, but that's why I kind of talk a lot about historical design, because that's the stuff that I like, and it's easier to stand out pulling from stuff that other people are not looking at.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Totally. So it stood out to me, just because we work together, I know that that's a part of your process. It goes back to your process-oriented thinking in your creativity, that like me as a graphic designer, which is not, I would probably, and I've seen a lot of people I respect do this as well, where their mood boards are coming from, what did I see, which is what you're talking about, what did I see on Instagram today? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that.
Right, yeah.
It's just a different approach. And I've seen you take a really like out of left field approach to the process of, I'm trying to think of how we even, like this is an example of how we really started to get into this like neon sign realm, and I really think it was from you getting a script from me that mentioned nothing about a neon sign, that mentioned nothing about old tavern signs at all, and you saying, well, I have this book of old neon signs and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to see as I comb through these pages what comes to the top as inspiring. So I think the historical references are like totally a part of your process, and I think it's really, really cool. I did not know that there's also this tie of like your childhood and your parents and your grandparents, and like how you are just generationally tied to things that are older than a lot of other people our age, which is really cool.
Yeah. Not that like other people don't have older parents, but I felt different than other kids growing up. Not that we were even like that close with our grandparents, but I think just the appreciation for history is something that was passed down. And I think like there is a lot of, I like wearing my heart on my sleeve in like my personal life, but also professionally, and I know, duh, obvious. But I pull from the things that I like, if they happen to line up with what I'm working on. And so like the Tavern Rum label specifically, I think the direction was like Chicago Tavern, dive bar. We even met at a dive bar at the time. And I love a neon sign. My great grandpa was a neon sign maker. So that for me was an opportunity to talk about like neon signs, supper clubs, Wisconsin, like kind of this Midwestern sensibility that I think is just now starting to get cool again.
Yes.
And that's something that is exciting to me because a lot of the people I love and I talk to are from here, and it feels like it feels like more of a community. I think we're all just searching for community, and I think that's also a driving force behind a lot of what we do.
There are two other things that stood out for me. I'll do one at a time.
Okay.
Or maybe this is all wrapped into one. We'll see what comes out of my mouth. Sometimes that's how it works. So I have an approach with marketing, and I've heard it a lot that like marketers are like living anthropologists, and I think that's like I like that. That's a really keen approach to it for me, because we're trying to tap into, whether it's for good intentions or not, we're trying to tap into what people like and how they like to hear it. Graphic designers, in my experience, tap into an entirely different like version of that than I do, because my background is in writing. There is the way that our brains respond to symbols and images is like fascinating, and graphic designers, good graphic designers, have the ability to tap into that in a way that I as a writer cannot. I just can't. I just cannot. I can write the copy but if it is not if it's not laid out correctly, which is to say if I designed it, then then it's not gonna happen, right? Like no one's gonna be like, yes.
Right.
And I feel like from an historical perspective, historical approach to graphic design that you were talking about, you're tapping into that in an even deeper way. And specifically, this is all wrapped into one. What I thought was two is one. Specifically, I think about that in terms of appropriation. We live in a society that is blind to a lot of the appropriation that we're surrounded by.
Totally.
And I just appreciate that you are getting around that with historical knowledge. And when we come from an informed perspective, which also includes looking at what has happened before, we're avoiding that. And that also just popped into my head, and I wondered if you had any, because when I read that, I was thinking about the Owen Jones, I think it's Owen Jones, The Grammar of Ornament book. That's like he's like a classic colonizer, like 1700, I think 17 or 1800s England.
Whoa. Okay.
And made this compendium of ornament from different cultures and historical periods. And it's beautiful. It's a hand-illustrated book that for a long time was a central foundation of visual design, but in an extremely appropriative way that was not respecting the meaning behind those symbols. So yeah, just coming at it from a historical approach really, really pinged that nerdy thing for me. If that made any sense.
No, it does. I'm not familiar with that book. I need to look it up.
Oh yeah.
I'll you have it.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to take a look. I think. It gets tricky because a lot of like Western/American historical references are pulled from everywhere else because this is a new country. That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But like, I do sometimes feel like it's safer to, safer meaning. What do I mean by that? Maybe like less guilty about pulling from certain sources of inspiration, or less obvious. But that's not necessarily meaning that it's still not appropriation. That I'm still not using references that aren't. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's, something that definitely should always be thought about. But it's not. It's not. And there's also, where to start? There's such a homogenization of culture right now because of social media and like that's so talked about right now because it's fascinating to see it unfold in real time and the implications of it down the line. But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I get what you're saying. I don't really know how to.
It's just,
I don't know what else to say.
Yeah,
because you said
it's a
it.
thing we both agree with. We're both here. I think we take for granted how important it is to take the time to understand what we're putting out there,
Yeah.
what we're working on,
Yep.
what we're trying to say. And when we don't, we have a homogenized culture that is not gonna. We're just not willing to burst our bubbles. Which really ties into creativity for me. And I think actually ties into because I have the same experience with you where my work and creativity feel at odds. There is a dichotomy within those that like I don't love.
Right.
So I feel like in our anecdotal experience of being human in today's world, it is the case that these are at odds and that people don't understand the importance of creativity, not for the sake of making a lot of money or like honestly for the sake of not knowing what the end is. That the means are we're human and we're creative. So we see where that goes. I don't know. Kind of getting. Also wanted to talk about digital versus print.
Yeah.
It
Just in
feels
general?
it feels like so tied to all of the conversations about AI.
Oh gosh. Yeah, which is a completely different thing.
But
unsurprisingly.
Also just in your experience designing for digital versus print media, and you have an affinity for print, and I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I love designing for print. It's where I started, and I have more experience doing print than like building websites, and I'm not like a coder, I'm not a programmer, but I do know print. So designing for them is different, just in the colors are different on certain printers. You really have to think about scale when you are designing something for print because you're not able to zoom in. You need to make sure you're looking at it at the right size. So there are technical things like that. But as someone who likes holding things and like flipping through things, that's where I would just rather spend the time getting it right. There's nothing like print. Digital will never be like print, no matter what happens. There's so many aspects, like, even picking out paper. Paper is really important to print. The printing process itself.
Cool.
How it's being delivered, in the mail, the colors, I don't know.
I just want everyone to know about this.
Yeah.
Because we take it for granted
I know.
all the time.
I know.
We take it for granted all the time.
And I have heard, and I hope it's true, that because of AI, and I hope I live to see the death of AI in my lifetime, I would love to see that, there's going to be a pivot to physical media. Well, and we could start talking about streaming services and how it's all becoming like cable again, and how buying DVDs is maybe the best option.
Yeah.
Buying CDs, not using Spotify, because everything is turning back to the subscription model where you don't own anything.
Yeah.
And what are you left with in that case?
Right.
What do you have?
Right.
They can't take books from you once you own them. They can take away your ebooks. They can delete them like that. But there's something to physical media.
Yeah.
That will always be
Love that.
king. I don't know.
You also sew and have a love of critiquing period drama costumes. I'm wondering if you have who did it well and who didn't. I wrote down two of my favorite, and I hope that they've.
Oh.
I have a feeling where they fall.
Okay.
Specifically, one of them is, I know where it falls, and I don't.
Yeah,
care.
it does.
The other one,
yeah.
I think I know, and I don't want to.
And it doesn't matter, because that's the thing about art.
Right.
You could argue that it doesn't matter if it's super period specific.
Right.
You know, because it's the artist's interpretation of it.
Yes, it is subjective.
Exactly. And I know that's in my bio on my website.
I love it.
I do still sew. I haven't sewn in 6 months. And that has also been like a very interesting creative journey. I started in the pandemic. It was to get off of my screen because I was working remotely, going crazy, having a really hard time, not doing well, and bought a sewing machine like everyone else. And my intro into it was historical costume. So it was like on YouTube, watching the big historical costumers on YouTube.
Cool.
And I think there was something about the pandemic that was very like, you know, it felt old world. It felt old school to like not be able to do anything. So there was that kind of longing for like tactile stuff. Anyway, I love historical costume, and I haven't sewn much of it myself, but there is a historical costuming society that Marissa is in.
Yeah.
She founded it, actually, and that's how I kind of started getting into that group also.
Cool.
And learning from them, because there's such a wealth of knowledge in that community. In Chicago alone, the amount of things that people know, it's like people our age who are, you know, doing history research on their own time.
Incredible.
And that's really interesting to me too. So, anyway, I thought the historical costuming in Emma was pretty good.
Okay.
The Emma remake with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Okay.
And they pulled from like specific garments that still exist in museums.
Cool.
And remade these garments, all sorts of beautiful trims. That was Regency era, so like what Bridgerton was supposed to be, you know, more historically accurate. But there's also the argument that you could make nothing could possibly be historically accurate in these days because the fabric is not made in the same way. The quality of fabric, the fibers we're using, the colors we're using, you can hand sew things if you want, and that is more historically accurate than using a machine, depending on the era. But there's no, unless you're buying antique fabric.
So why?
Exactly.
Why?
It's also so expensive to buy natural fibers these days.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I love a purist, and I love people who are stubborn. One of those people.
Amazing. Yes.
I just don't see this one as a hill to die on.
No, because then it becomes gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Or like you're looking down on people because they don't have the money to buy 10 yards of linen. You know, it's like calm down.
Yeah.
It's art.
Yes.
People are using their hands, they're learning skills, and they're making things.
And Bridgerton, entertaining.
Yes.
Horny as hell.
It's doing the job it's supposed to do.
Yes.
It's about the tension. It's not about the costuming.
No. Marie Antoinette.
Oh.
Amazing.
Loved it.
Everybody knows.
She's wearing Converse.
Yeah.
No.
The other one I had was Atonement.
Oh.
I have a feeling it's very much not.
I don't know. That green dress.
I love that green dress. It's so beautiful.
The green dress, I would say, seemed accurate to me.
We're gonna say it is.
I'm not an expert, but
it is.
It's like that bias cut silk. Yeah. Who cares?
Great.
My favorite movie is The Pride and Prejudice from 2005, and a lot of the costumes are great. I think I've heard even critiques of that movie. Is my point that the waistlines were more 2005.
Of course they were. Because it was made in 2005.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And same thing with Bridgerton. And like in 10 years, we're going to be looking at it and being like, that is so 2020.
Yeah.
You know, like you can tell
that
it was through the lens of when it was made, which is also interesting context to any piece of art that you're viewing.
Yeah. Speaking of color, your use of color is like always incredible to me. I really like the way that you, in your process, organize color. Maybe that's not the right word, but I just like the way that you approach color. Have you always loved colors, and like, what is your relationship with color? I feel like some designers are like, oh, if everything could just be like black and white or like 3 colors, I would be so much more happy. Or like, yeah.
Good question. I've always loved color. I think it also comes from looking at a lot of different sources, and like I remember in high school I had these 1950s like reference books, like modern day, but from the from 50s advertisements.
Cool.
And like specifically food packaging from that era, when things just used to have more color in them. There's also been people talking about the decline of color variety in our lives and how, you know, it's a political indicator of fascism in certain cases, and it does very much feel like that people are afraid to use color, or that using color is what word do I want to use? Maybe like unserious, or it's gonna scare people away. But I love color. I have an art degree, so like I think some of it comes from that too. But it makes sense to me. Yeah. I think it's, if you get the colors right for anything, on a subconscious level, it just bumps up the value of everything you're doing. Yes. And I should also say, like, I try to design things in black and white and then add color. That's kind of like the second step to my process. Yeah. But I always look forward to when I can put colors together, because it's fun to me. It's fun to like look around and see what makes sense.
But even within that, you maybe not even with a specific, hey, design this asset. Even in a bigger picture, creating a brand. Like with Ear Things, you created a color palette that totally shifted and created a ton of it opened up so much potential for that brand that Stephen and I had not seen before there was a color palette created. And it's not the first time you created a color palette for something before any asset is coming about. And that's like an amazing skill. That's an amazing brain to me, that your ability to do that. Do you have a favorite color?
That's a hard question. I tend to gravitate towards colors that I like wearing. So I try to use a lot of brown, because I feel like brown is very underrated.
Yes.
Not in this household, clearly. Love a brown. But I also love a green. Those are kind of my brown, green, purple are my colors right now.
Love that.
Into it. Yeah.
Creativity is latent within everything that humans are experiencing.
It's a human thing.
Yes.
And I think just because you're not using it doesn't mean you don't have it.
Yes.
Also.
Yes, that is a huge distinction.
Yeah.
Just because you're not using creativity does not mean you don't have it. You heard it.
Everyone has it. And it's also, you could say that it's a privilege to have time and space to create. Yeah. That's super valid. I think I felt like, on the topic of like creative burnout, working a corporate job, I was so creatively unfulfilled. And in my free time, I wasn't creating. And I would have never called myself an artist a couple years ago. Never. And I think being laid off, having a hard time finding a job, and yes, the economy is so bad that a lot of us are just like out here doing whatever we want. Because what else are we gonna do? If I'm gonna be sitting at home anyway, I might as well do something. So I think having time is a privilege, but it's also important to use that time in a way that's self-fulfilling, that has nothing to do with money,
right?
Which is also a privilege.
Yeah. What are your dreams for the future?
Good question. I do still feel like I'm in a bit of a transition right now, creatively and just like with career stuff. I want to stay in Chicago. That's my dream. I love being here. I love the community here. And I just want to do something that is creatively fulfilling, whether that's work or outside of work, having the time to do that outside of work. I want to be around good people, and I want to be interested in what I'm doing and not get bored. I don't want to do the same thing every day. I think I work best when there's a lot of different things going on. And yeah, no concrete plans.
Yeah.
Just, I feel like it's also hard to plan for the future. I've never been good at it, but you know, me and everyone else that have been getting laid off lately, I think it's changed everyone's priorities, hopefully for the better.
I hope so. We are going to make a painting that is a masked ad for a recently used product.
Okay.